Do you think that baseball owners have a hard time keeping up with the times? Do you think that the sport is a little bit too traditional and that it's too conservative and that it's too outdated and that the ideas that the men in charge have are far too outmoded? Do you think that baseball is going to have a hard time in the future economically if it doesn't figure out what the market today wants? I'm asking these questions not necessarily just because that's the way I think, but also because these are the sort of things I see a lot when I go on baseball message boards. In fact, I've seen these types of points being made over and over again the last 25, 30 years. And the funny thing is that it didn't start then. It started a lot earlier. So check out here what I've found. So we're going to look here first. This is over on newspapers.com. We'll make this a little bit bigger here for you as I continue to figure out exactly what it is I'm doing here. We'll move in a little bit here. There we go. This is from the New York Daily News, June 5th, 1949. So it's close to where our replay is. All right. Here you go. Findlays, it's here. The portable you've waited for. Television you can take with you anywhere. What are we watching on the portable TV that must have been really heavy? Well, we're watching baseball, right? That was one of the major selling points of television in 1949. Now, we forget about this because it was so long ago. We think of the golden age of TV as being in the 50s, but it was really 1949. When you go through these old newspapers, what you see are tons of advertisements like this everywhere in the United States. There are advertisements for this brand of television and that brand of television, just all sorts of different types, all of them running on tubes, all of them that great old style that you could repair. A lot of these TVs are kind of hard to find because you go on eBay today to find them, and there's not that many left, unfortunately. Look at this, $179.95. I'll let you guys go use the inflation calculator and figure out how much that would be today. $17.99 down, 2 years to pay. Small carrying charge, not sure what that means. Weighs only 25 pounds. Whoa, yeah. It's portable. You're going to take this portable 25-pound television with you, but at least they give you an extra extension cord, convenient carrying handle, which is right here. Anyway, this is fascinating stuff. But yeah, look at this. No installation required because you can bring it up into your house, which means no landlord's permission. Yeah, this was a long time ago, wasn't it? You have to get your landlord's permission to buy the television. Now, the reason why I bring this up is, of course, not to sort of poke fun at this old ad, which is fun enough in itself. The reason why I bring it up is because of a much more serious problem. So, as part of my Diamond Mine Baseball replay, I like to look at old newspapers and sort of see what people were talking about. And I thought, let's go look at the sporting news and see what was going on. And this is the first thing that popped up. First page, June 8th, 1949, crackdown seen on major telecasts. Stay-at-home fans cutting clubs' gates. Big curtailment in number of video games, i.e. games on video, television games, likely at winter meetings. So let's take a closer look here into what was going on here with this article. Let's see if it will let me zoom in. There we go. And it'll take me a second to move us on over here. There we are. Television, which Major League Magnates said 2 years ago would prove a bonanza to attendance, has become a hot potato instead and now faces serious curtailment, if not complete abolishment, by the owners during the winter meetings. So I'm not sure what owners thought that putting games on TV was going to help attendance. That doesn't make much sense, at least not in the short term. If the majors make a decision to abandon television, they will follow in the footsteps of professional football in Philadelphia, where the Eagles announced the other day that their games will not be televised this year. You ever hear of that? The 1949 Philadelphia Eagles not being on television? There's a little bit more here. Clubs are hurting the pocketbook. Major League attendance was running 178,767 ahead of 1948 through Memorial Day this year. Okay, so there were almost 180,000 more fans in 49 through Memorial Day than in 48. The full figures weren't fully known, which itself is kind of odd. I know there's a whole big part here you can't see. Sorry about that. Thanks to paper of record. Those numbers are interesting because it kind of goes against the point of the article. It was a different time, wasn't it? Back before you had a lot of talk about this stuff online because there was no online. But there's talk here about the bigger problem, which was the problem with the minor leagues, right? So in Wilmington, for example, this club in Pennsylvania won the pennant. Attendance dropped to 166,000 in 48, I'm assuming. This year, with the team that has led the league almost from the start, attendance will drop under the 100,000 mark if the present rate is maintained. People in that area who have television sets, and that, of course, includes the tap rooms, so the bars, prefer to watch the Phillies and the Athletics over television to attending the Wilmington games. And then, of course, for the Phillies, the final straw that broke the camel's back in Philadelphia was a game which the Phils played against the Braves at Shibe Park. The last game, that is. There were only 2,896 paying fans in the park. So much for the glory days of baseball in the 1950s. Maybe if you had a television, they were the glory days. Now, check this part out. In the fifth inning, umpire Larry Goots made a ruling on a hit by Clint Conatser, which he first called foul and then reversed himself when it hit a pipe in left field. Goods said that the drive hit the yellow foul line pipe. It must have been a heck of a ballpark, the pipe in left field. For 1/2 hour after the decision, the Phillies' telephone switchboard at the park was flooded with calls from television fans who said that guy Goots is blind. We saw that ball hit the green pipe, which is in foul territory. I'm not sure how they did that when the television was black and white. This is just great stuff. But there's talk about, the losses that the major leagues would look at for television, right? So here's a quote from one official. It isn't only television, said one official. It's a combination of many factors, but it is a cinch that television isn't helping. It is not only hurting at present, but it is producing stay-at-home habits among the fans that will be reflected in later years. They can get all the thrills of a real game over television and have no worry about parking. Let me tell you an amusing incident I ran across a few days ago. I engaged a babysitter to watch my children so my wife could go to the game with me. That night when I returned, the babysitter and her boo were waiting for us. That was a great game, wasn't it? Said the babysitter. We certainly enjoyed it. My friend is a great fan. He wanted to go tonight, but I told him we could watch it over your television set, and we saved enough money to go to a dance. That game cost me $250 for the babysitter and $250 at the gate. That's pretty expensive. He must have had good seats. They enjoyed it so much over television, they will always watch it that way and save money. If that is multiplied by 100,000, you can figure how much attendance we will lose in the season, and so on and so forth. So, we could go through and read a whole bunch of this. There are more articles here about the same thing. But what I'll tell you is so interesting about this is to look back at it in retrospect and to realize how short-sighted this is, right? And that's the big problem. Yeah, it was definitely a short-term problem for baseball at the time, to have attendance take a real hit because fans were choosing not to go to the ballpark and instead to watch the game on television, right? Because television was the brand new medium. It was the new thing. It was the novel thing. And as we just saw, this is why people were buying television so they could watch baseball. But the truth of the matter is that in the long term, this did prove to be a huge boon to attendance because more people could find out about the major league teams. Suddenly, major league teams especially were moved up in prestige around the country because you could see it happen now. You could watch it. If you were, thousands of miles away, you could still watch this team and be informed and know more about it. I bring this up because there's a real interesting connection between this and what ended up happening in Great Britain. As far as I know, in 1949, there really wasn't a television of football in Great Britain. It started, there were a few football league games that were televised in the mid-50s, and then they shut it down. And why? Because the Football Association was very upset for the same reason that the Sporting News here is upset. They're upset about the minor leagues and attendance falling apart for teams that were reliant upon attendance. And so no live football was broadcast in England until the 1980s. It's like 1983, right? This ended up doing a lot of damage, however, to the Football League because fans couldn't watch big games. You could watch it on Match of the Day or Match of the Week or whatever they call it, Match of the Day, I think it is, like on Saturday evening, but that was it. That was your only chance to watch the games, right? There was no other way around it. In the end, in Great Britain, the mismanagement of television, of the television of football, is what led to the creation of the Premier League, right? And the fact that everybody was stodgy and conservative and wasn't moving along with technology. So that brings me back to this question. Are we seeing something similar happening again in baseball today? I know that Major League Baseball has been on the cutting edge of things like analytics online and of making sure that you can flip into your app and take a look and see, how fast the last pitch was and how much break there was on it, how much spin there was on it, which is actually pretty cool, right? I'm pretty old-fashioned when it comes to this, but I've got to hand it to you. That's pretty cool stuff. But the problem that we have is that these antiquated television rights ideas are exactly the same as this talk in the past about attendance. It's the exact same thing. And so in hopes of holding on to a dying business model, Major League Baseball owners are shooting themselves in the foot in the long term. Young people aren't watching the game as much these days as they once did. Part of the problem is the rights problem. You can't watch your own team if you pay however much it costs for the package. You still can't watch your own team live, so they give up on their own team, right? We decide that we want to keep broadcasting games on these regional sports networks that are falling apart and that now have ties with gambling organizations, right? Why? I mean, I know that there's money to be made, but that short-term money is not going to overcome the long-term loss of fans. It's exactly the same thing that baseball was going through in 1949. Now, my real hope is that cooler minds prevail. I hope that baseball will look to the NBA and see that, it probably helps to put games on free television. Then people can watch them and people can be fans of their local team, right? If you want to charge people extra money for games, then have some like DirecTV type package or whatever company you want to put it out through and have the out-of-market fan pay for the game instead of having the out-of-market fan get it all part of the package and the fan in market has to pay double, right? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, that's the way that I feel about this. It's not going to be that simple, I know. And the impact that the cable television legal monopoly has had on the United States has been a net negative, and it's been this way for decades. But I do hope for a brighter tomorrow. I think that the game actually will be fine if it can find its way back onto television and if it can figure out a way to advertise itself towards younger people. But to do that, they've got to get their head out of this antiquated way of thinking, just like they needed to in 1949. Talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.